saluto a tutti.
Ciao Juventini, welcome back to the AJC. It's Omer and myself bringing you the news live and just tackling the surrounding topics that have come through this week. Okay, so hey, never a dull moment around Juventus. Nothing has changed. Still quite a bit to talk about as we get ready. So with less games this season, you can expect these midweek lives to come through, and we'll talk about topics that hit through the week and everything. And we got some other extra stuff we're planning, and we're going to try to hit some other time zones this season and make some more favorable times for West Coast people that like the late night shows and whatnot. And we'll mix in some weekend afternoons, I think, on non-game days as too. So again, just trying to hit some more time zones and in a small way of saying thank you for all the support from everybody. All right. And Omer, how you doing today, my man?
All good, all good. Nice day, beautiful day outside.
Sun's out, guns
Oh,
out. There you go. The tank
yeah,
is
lots of
on.
news.
That's
The
good
tank
luck.
is always on. Yeah,
Tank's always
that's
on.
true
It's good
luck.
luck heading into the weekend's game against Bologna. We'll talk a bit about that too. And of course, some Mercato. We have to say what's up to everybody. Apex always in here. Ciao, ciao, Apex. We got Nick Picciano wasting no time. We're winning the Scudetto. Don't care. Love it. Absolutely love it. Vincenzo, buongiorno, buongiorno. Jan Van Engelen. Mercato has been a bust. One more week of depressing news coming. We're going to talk about the Mercato as a whole. Let's say it wraps up today, okay, and just see where we stand and what our feelings are. So we'll definitely get back to this, Jan, all right? Ciao to Vedad. Great seeing you in here. James Lapierre. Ciao from YVR Gate B14. Look at that. Heading somewhere. Well, safe travels, my friend, wherever you are heading, all right? Buongiorno, Jeremiah. Hey guys, let's go, let's go. Hashtag thank the tank. I like that. That's
Love it,
nice. That's
love it.
nice. And ciao to
Absolutely love it.
Dels. Great seeing you all in here. We're going to tackle, as I said, all the latest news surrounding Juventus, some of the topics that hit this week. We have some polls that hit there, and let's go. We got a couple we're going to get to. I'm just going to pull them up here. I want to remind everybody, just get the housekeeping out of the way, all right? Ways to support, and you guys have been incredible. Obviously, we have memberships now associated with our YouTube channel. Okay, so if you want to become a member, go ahead. There's 3 tiers there, all sorts of different perks. We're also opening up one of the perks a little bit wider. So the private group chat that was previously available for tier 3 only is now going to be open to all our AJC army. All right, so if you are a member, reach out. We're going to put you into and plug you into our private WhatsApp group chat, and it's great stuff. A lot of fun in there. And Joe Cappuccino was taking some shots yesterday in terms of something that had nothing to do with Juventus or anything like that. It was actually NFL team. So yeah, that chat goes everywhere. The other way, of course, we have super chat enabled here, and the merch. And there's some new designs that are going to be dropping very, very soon. So check that out. Thank you to everybody who has chosen to support in one of those ways. And the absolute easiest way, I always remind everybody, is simply just to share the content and spread the word out there and continue to help us grow the AJC Army. You guys have been fantastic, though. And through all your support, we've been able to become the official voice and channel of all the North American Juventus official fan clubs. If there's a fan club near you, I strongly urge you to join up with them. They're all great. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the presidents, and these guys are some of the biggest diehards out there. It's awesome stuff, and they always work to bring you closer to our beloved old lady. Now, with that out of the way, time to get to business. All right. And we're going to kick things off with something. It's always nice. You get this news and it kind of pulls you in different direction, and the fan base is divided on a lot of the news moves. I would do this, I would do that, and everything. It's nice to get a piece of news where we can all, for the most part, and I didn't see anybody saying otherwise, be on the same page, and that is Federico Chiesa's contract extension that they're finally working on and looking to get done. This is an absolute no-brainer piece of business. Correct?
Yeah, that's an easy call. I mean, should have done it yesterday.
Exactly. We're going to go into a final contract year. You would never want to hit that with Chiesa. We can see when you come to the roster, our assets as far as big draws, he is one of them. Should something come up and he does want to leave Juventus, although I will say all reports suggest he is happy, wants to stay at Juventus, you got to get this done even just from a protection standpoint for Juventus should something go that route. But yeah, true assets, great player. I think the revenge tour has just started for him this season. I really think he's going to remind everybody to put some damn respect on his name. Let's get this one done. So we're all in agreement there. It's nice to have some news where we all agree on. That's beautiful. Now,
Yeah. Just to clarify, his contract runs until 2025. So from next summer, we're basically going to get strong armed into a deal that we don't want to. So it's renewing now, as soon as possible to avoid that. So even if we do sell him, it has to be for a very high price. I hope it never happens and Chiesa stays forever. But either way, we gotta get that done right now.
yeah, I agree. Animesh talking Mercato. If in 8 days we still have Chiesa and Vlahovic in the team, I am happy. I would be as well. But we're going to see what happens. Those two could still be in the team. However, there's a lot of conflicting rumors. So let's start with Illing Jr. Atalanta apparently would have had a deal, but they want a loan associated there. Juve is looking outright sale. We're hearing that Juve is looking outright sale on Moise Kean as well. We will get to that. But also Filip Kostic. So the latest rumors circulating are that Cambiaso has impressed and he is essentially got himself in that spot secure. And now they're looking at one of these two options, Illing or Kostic, to move. When we put that poll question out, which one would you sacrifice? It was almost a landslide that it would be Kostic. I believe you were on that wavelength as well, correct, Omer?
Yeah, absolutely. Not
So,
because I have something against Kostic, just in terms of value and the way Juve are operating right now, trying to maximize profits. I think he can make the least amount of money out of his sale. And a good season by Illing Jr., which I'm sure he's not going to stay at Juve forever. He will be sold at some point. But right now, like 20 million, the reported numbers are too low for me. We can get a lot more for a player of his caliber, and that promising. And Cambiaso just arrived, so that's a hard no for him because he impressed so far everyone, not just us fans. He came in as like third guy, the odd man out who might leave, and in 2 months he became the first choice for left wingers. So let him cook, give him time.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Kostic, and I've said this before too, I'm actually happy and fine if the team remains the same. I have absolutely no problems with it. If all remains the same, this is the team we go into this Mercato with. I absolutely have no problems here. Okay. I will agree with RB Comps here that it looks like we have a serious player on our hands in Cambiaso. It is very, very, premature in his tenure at Juventus. There was a lot that were lobbying for him to stay and remain before that loan to Genoa, obviously, and whatnot. And hey, it looked like it worked out for the best. Now he does look a serious player, one that is extremely versatile. And the fact that he can cover both sides, I mean, the list goes on and on. So obviously, great start for him. We got to see him continue on that path. In terms of Kostic, this is one where you have fans that are defending keeping him and saying he's still the guy. I did say this with Kostic the entire time through the Mercato when he was being linked continuously. And I said, for me, it's a little bit more than the one-dimensional side of things that I see out of him. It's just the fact that I truly do believe and I stand behind it. Chiesa. We keep talking about Chiesa. Obviously, we're talking contract extension. We know he's going to be crucial and vital to Juventus this season. The two of them don't really mesh, and I said this from the start. If Illing Jr. had more minutes, I believe he would have surpassed Kostic for the starting role at that left wing back position. And I did get some kickback on that. And there were many that said, no, Illing Jr. would not beat out Kostic. Okay. But that is the reasoning in my mind. I've been ready to kind of offload Kostic should an offer come in the entire time. Do you agree that Illing Jr., if given the chance, would have surpassed Kostic if we take Cambiaso out of the equation?
He might have. It all depends on how it gels with the other parts of the team. And with Kostic, it's not, to say that Kostic is not a good player. He's a really good player. It's just his pairing with the people on the left that play around him, the other players, is not working that well as we hoped it will, because they like to drift, they like to go out on the outside. We see even Rabiot more on the outside than inside the area, and they just like they're overcrowding a very small area of space, and it can be better. When he played for Frankfurt, it was different because their strikers didn't drift out wide, so it kind of played to his game. And so it's not that Kostic is a bad player, but in the way that Allegri tries to play with Juve and what we've seen in preseason from maybe Lionelli, Kostic is not the best fit. I think Ealing and Cambiaso so far look more fit to that style of play.
It's and again, going back to all the assists and everything that you could tie to Kostic. Kostic has good qualities, okay,
Great
but
quality.
again, tying it into Juve, tying it into Max Allegri, okay, and this is another big one for me. Max Allegri needs dynamic players. He absolutely needs dynamic players in there because of kind of how he plays. These guys have always been vital. And if you look down the line and you go through the rosters he's had and whatnot, arguably these past couple of years, a little bit of a lack there in terms of dynamic players. Last year, you can make the argument, well, we had Angel Di Maria, way out of position for me. Second striker, Trequartista dropping down in the midfield, not right. Cuadrado, near the end, his 1v1's success rate just shot down and plummeted. But he needs these dynamic figures to do damage. And he always has and always have needed these guys. And this is another reason why I just think Kostic is safe. I've said this the whole time. He's safe. You know what you're going to get. There's nothing wrong with Kostic as a player. I'm not saying that. For us, he would be, because of the traits, because of the style, because of how he plays, the one I would sacrifice. I will also say this. The assists, all this, are great. He throws a lot of crosses in there, okay? He throws a lot of the crosses in there, sometimes doing so blindly. If you guys look back to the goal that we scored, Rabiot's goal in the season opener, so subtle, so quick. Back heel from Chiesa before the ball even gets to him. He takes a quick peek, Cambiaso, spots him, and drops that thing in on a dime. It's little things. For me, Kostic has the potential to be absolutely lights out. But there's a few things he's got to add into that game that I didn't see throughout last season. But dynamic players and Max Allegri, like, he has to have them. And that's why I think these guys are bigger. You've got a 3 center back system that you're also playing. So some of those other qualities start to fade in terms of what you want out of left wing back. And we saw it against Udinese because we can cheat a bit more with the 3 center back system. It's something we are able to do and we should be doing. And last year, I don't think we did enough. But maybe there's a shift there. And maybe that's one of the things we're changing. No knocks on Kostic, okay? It's not a knock on Kostic to say that for me, he would be the one I would sacrifice for those reasons. That's it. Omer?
Yeah, so I will. Okay, let's review last season. Up until a certain point, he was great. He was delivering assists, and all that time, Chiesa was injured or coming back from injuries. So his target guys were Keane, Milik, and Vlahovic mainly, which then the crossing game works better. As soon as Chiesa came back, he was already at a point that he's been run to the ground, which sucks because we did have Illing on the bench and he could have played a lot more and give Kostic a lot more rest. But right around March, everyone fell, including Kostic. But it's not due to him and the way he played, because right about then Chiesa started coming back more regularly, and then we saw that the matchup doesn't work. And so we tried different combinations. He was already too tired, played almost the entire season, barely rested, every game 90 minutes, which I think is part of the reason why we did see him, fumble towards the end. It didn't look as sharp as it did, and just pumping in crosses. Maybe that was Juve's tactics. I don't know, but I will say that he could do more. He could lift his head before he crosses the ball and see where everyone stays, just like Cambiaso did. And he had moments where he did that, but when he had his back against the wall, he would just shoot it in the area and hope someone reaches it instead of just looking and aiming towards someone. I think he can be really useful, but Allegri needs to figure out how to use him properly or how to change the formation and the way we play if he's on the pitch to maximize his abilities.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think he will be sold eventually before the end of the market, or we'll see Cambiaso plays on the right more.
Yeah, the latest report suggests that Cambiaso has become that starting role there. All right, we'll talk more. Continuing on with the starting role, the news breaks out a couple days ago of Alexandro being regular starter. Obviously, this has fans feeling a certain way. I actually came out, and everybody knows where I stand with Alexandro, where I have stood for a couple of years, but it makes sense from a tactical standpoint what we're trying to do with set player in Cambiaso and potentially the others playing behind him if they're going to cheat up there. That left-footed role, we saw him slice that flank with long balls as Cambiaso stretched and pushed Udinese's defense further back and opening up space for Chiesa, in turn opening up space for Vlahovic. However, the question has to be asked, can we not achieve something similar even with a right-footed player? Gatti is obviously the name that naturally comes up. We want to see this guy get minutes. We want to know what we have exactly in Gatti. This news right now, I'm not getting too overwhelmed or too fired up with. I do hope that Gatti gets a strong and healthy amount of minutes this season for the reasons I just stated. I want to know exactly what we have there and see some growth there. For Sandro to stay in there, I mean, yes, makes sense. Left-footed center back on the left side and everything. But, we know how Allegri is with left-footed, right-footed and everything and teams across Europe and stuff. But I guess it doesn't affect me a whole bunch because we barely have any left footers out here. And when I've coached teams or whatnot, and the competitive guys when I was coaching, you got right footers almost everywhere, whatever, and you learn to cope. But your thoughts with the Sandro regular starter role and everything, Omer? You're muted.
Look, first of all, hi to Near T, TT1. Thank you. Good to have you here. Look, Sandro, I get that people like him and people give him credit for what he's done for Juve, and I do too. Allegri in the past two seasons barely played the same lineups, if he ever did. But now we have a season where there's time to establish a new formation and new starting 11 that will play for most of the games, barring any injuries. I don't want Sandro to be the one, mainly because there's nothing to gain from it. I mean, it's his last season. Gatti is the young guy who needs minutes and probably will stay here in the future. Like I see no upside to giving Sandro, that he'd be the guy playing there. And I think it needs rotation. I don't want him playing there all season because he doesn't get injured. So if that position is his, that's who we'll see all season, and that doesn't benefit Juve's future. And we don't have a lot of games, so not a lot of chances either for the other guys. And we have Rugani on the bench and Hoysen who needs minutes. But I don't know. I don't like it. I want Gatti to get more minutes. But Allegri is Allegri. He likes his old guys. He always has liked his old guys. So I wouldn't be surprised. He trusts him. At the end of the day, I'm just a fan. Allegri is there. He sees them on training. He makes the decision based on whatever he does. I have no idea. But I will give him, the benefit of the doubt. But when Sandro does fuck up, let let someone else take the role because Gatti will be here for a long time.
This is one of the things I said recently in terms of this. Sandro, we can't deny, had a strong performance in the season opener against Udinese. Played a great game.
It
I have
happened
also
in the
seen
past.
I have also seen Sandro start the past few seasons off strong. This is nothing new. I've seen that. I've seen him start the season strong. And I've
Mhm.
seen where it goes after that flex at the first start of the season. I've seen where it goes. So this is another thing. I'm fine with it. If he puts in performances like that consistently, I have absolutely no issues with it. But if it drops off to, I would say, and even if slightly so, if it drops off to the majority of what we've seen over the past couple seasons from him, then I would have a problem with it. And you have to make the switch. In saying that, though, I do have faith that Max would make a switch if it drops down because he's done so last season and he's done so recently. But I'm approaching the whole thing with caution, kind of. That's how I feel. I'm almost guarded against it. And the reason is because you see it with a guy like Bonucci, who we will get to, and he made the decision. That was it. He bailed on him. You didn't see it with McKennie until injury with Fagioli, and that should have been another one that was bailed out on. And everybody, and our cousins was screaming for Fagioli to come in and help, and he did, but that came through injury. So again, I'm guarded about the whole thing. But right now, Sandro keeps on the way he started the season. I have no problems with it, other than the fact we do have to find a good amount of minutes for Gatti. For me, again, tying into exactly what Omer said, the future. You have a player that is here because he reached a certain amount of appearances, and we've tried to offload him all summer. You have a player who shows all the signs and indications of being a throwback to one of these old school Juve players and who absolutely wants to succeed and get everything out of his time here and appears to love the club.
He's an asshole. We need an asshole on the team.
And Gatti is an asshole. And we've seen
Yeah.
him lash out on a couple guys there last season, whatnot. And you need those guys. He's a throwback. He's a throwback to the
Yeah.
old school Juve. The old school Juve when guys hated to play Juventus. Last
Yeah.
year, said we were way too soft. I want to see us take that next step. I think we could do it with certain guys like that. But again, let's see what happens. Sandro appears to have landed the starting role. We brought up Bonucci. The latest on Bonucci is that Union Berlin, he has opened himself up to it. There's nothing in Italy that seems to be amounting to anything for him. He's opening himself up. They're trying to find the salary terms. Juve's probably going to see a bag of match balls and some water bottles for the trade, like 500K to 1 million. There's also discussions about us picking up some of his salary and whatnot. We'll see where it all finalizes, but that's where it is headed. Bonucci has always divided the fan base. Okay, I said this and I stand behind it. I hate seeing a guy with the history. Despite what we feel about him personally, I don't think it's up for discussion, the legacy. And I understand the Milan thing. And everybody, like, I'm telling you, it takes so much to carry a grudge. And again, when you factor in the same type of scenario where he and Max were just butting heads, it didn't look like it was getting corrected. What was he supposed to do? The biggest thing a man can do, though, is admit he was wrong. And he came back, said it was a mistake, whatever. I'm telling you, you can't be a part of a decade of dominance, be a part of the like record-breaking BBC, and not hold some type of legacy with the club. You just can't say otherwise. So he has that. And I hate seeing guys that have even a bit of a legacy at Juve leaving on such a sour note. However, there are two parties involved. Bonucci has done wrong. And I have way more to go into this. But I want to get your thoughts just kind of right now. Are you on the same wavelength? Does it affect you at all? Or do you think it's kind of sucks to see it leaving on a sour note?
Look, I think it's better for you. But I do want you to go into it because we talked about it not long ago, and you kind of changed my opinion a bit about this whole situation and everything that happened with the transfer to Milan. I don't think one transfer completely ruins a player's legacy. You can look back at the Baggio and where he played and where he moved to from Juve. I mean, it happened a lot in the past, so maybe it's kind of something of a bit more of the new generation and having this solidity with the players of the team, and you can play there, and that's something very exclusive to Italy. But his story is it's a bit different. It's really hard to judge him. I still don't feel the same about him like I felt before he left for Milan, and I probably never will. But there are some merits, to just saying, look, listen to his story, listen to what happened to him at that time, everything. And you were at the stadium at that game against Milan. So I would like you to go through it and explain it to everyone, including everything that went through. Having said that, yeah, he needs to leave. Sucks that it's on a bad note. It can be dropped. I mean, Bonucci can address that a bit differently, but I won't hold it against him because he's a strong character, and that's what strong characters have.
Yeah.
That's the way they handle things.
Yeah, I mean the Milan thing it's funny to me. I mean, he did go there and he had certain intentions. Again, nothing good usually comes when you make plans out of malice and negative feelings and whatnot. And that's kind of what he did. And he had this idea that he was gonna shift the weight and power in Serie A or whatnot. But in Juventus, in Turin, at that Juventus Milan game, I was there on his return, and he just stood there in his civvies. He walked out to the sideline. He didn't walk out on the pitch. He was there. It was before warm-ups and whatnot, and the crowd just absolutely lost it on him. All right, and he's standing there and he's doing a 360, looking around at all the stands, and he's got his hands in his pocket, and they are just booing, jeering, whistling, like letting him have it. The chants and whatnot. Like it was pretty rough. It kind of hurt to see after what we have been through together up until that point. And you could see it looking at some of the faces, some of the fans. Some were taken back. And again, that's what happened. He nodded his head. And he continued to walk up and down the sideline and just ended up going back to the tunnel. Came out, got ready, did his warm-ups. And then, we saw what happened in the game. He decided to celebrate because of that reaction. It is what it is. There's always a couple parties involved in every situation, in every scenario. Regardless of that, if you're still holding him against that for celebrating there and everything, I just, for me, I got over it a long, long time ago. I was pissed when he did it at the time. I was pissed that he left there. But again, it is what it is. He's always divided the fan base, even when he was with us. It's just who he is. He's polarizing. It is what it is. This whole scenario, It sucks, but I will say this. Looking back, I think Max Allegri was right the entire time. I think Max Allegri was right the entire time. You and me have talked about certain types of leadership and everything. We got a good look in All or Nothing about him in the back, in the dressing room. And there are people that lead that way. I'm not going to fault him for being aggressive, shouting, yelling. You have Bonucci or Ronaldo, Buffon, Chiellini, who all went to bat for him to bring him back to this team. But I think in the end, and way back, and looking at things now, and again, there's subtle signs, but there's the words that we're hearing all around Juve's camp that are leading me to believe one of the biggest issues over this past few years may very well have been the locker room and not the personnel, not the coaching, and maybe, just maybe, he's tied to that. And I can't help but think that, and I've been thinking that for weeks now. Maybe, just maybe, that's been our biggest detriment, and maybe that's one of the biggest pieces in what needed to happen. Just spitballing here.
Yeah, it's not an easy choice to make. I'm sure it wasn't done, just light-headed decision. Yeah, let him go. He's just another player. I'm sure it wasn't like that, but to make Juve better, and we know how tight we are with funds and salaries and everything, it was the right call to make. The way it was done, I don't know if there was any other way. Gotta remember Max. We knew Max was staying at that time, and Bonucci was the one reportedly leaking everything that was backstage to the press. I mean, he and Max has some sort of beef between them
Yeah.
that we'll never fully understand. We'll never fully know about it. Maybe when he retires, he'll tell the story, one of them. But so far, everything is behind closed doors. And so just it is what it is. I mean, we got to move on. And up until that Milan game, I admired him. I loved Bonucci. I thought he was like the best defender in the world. And Man City offered 60 million or 70 million for him. I don't remember. I really loved him. That incident left a sour taste, but gotta let go sometimes. I would never view him the same as I look at Chiellini. Never. He's not Chiellini. Chiellini falls more into the type of person I love, the type of leadership I want to be, guided by. But it is what it is. I mean, Bonucci has done a lot for Juve, and he's been part of a phenomenal team, an integral part of a phenomenal team, and we should never forget that.
Exactly. And, I I don't like saying Chiellini, it was because of Chiellini, Barzali is why, but no, he was a very, very vital part. And he played his part and he was a mix. Them together formed a record breaking defensive trio, all right? We need to respect that. You can think whatever you want of Bonucci and whatnot, but you've got to respect his role and what he did in that group. I can't see otherwise. Like, I will respect him for that. I will say this, in terms of everything with Bonucci, there are always two parties. I've been saying this throughout. Two parties to everything. Everybody talking about his books, his salary, being a bench player and everything. Again, I think a lot hold that against him as well. He is not responsible for the contract that Juve offered and he signed. You can't tell a player when they need to retire because you want him off your books because you signed him to a contract. So, again, while we could feel a certain way of Bonucci, we all agree it's time to move on. It's time to say goodbye. You can't force a player into retirement. We saw it with Del Piero, for Christ's sake. He would have stayed and played for nothing, for free. 10 minutes a game, 5 minutes a game. Sit on that bench, wait till I'm done. And we did it with him. You cannot tell players when their time is up. You could say goodbye, you can do whatever, but if he's in a contract, you absolutely cannot just say, okay, well, we're done with you, so we're going to set up this farewell tour. And it's like, well, You gave me this contract. I have one more year. I don't care if you're telling me and going to dictate to me when I'm going to retire. And I think if you look at it from that standpoint, you can easily think and see how a guy like Bonucci was going to take that. It's Bonucci. Obviously, he is a hard-headed individual. You knew that was coming.
Yeah, just two quick points. First of all, we need to remember this wasn't the management that gave him the contract. They sort of had to deal with it, but the guys who gave it to him, none of them are here anymore. So it's kind of a weird situation for them, but that was like the first
Yeah.
move they make, which is not easy. And I will say that for him, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to admit to yourself that you're no longer good enough to do what you have always done and you always wanted to do, and admitting to yourself that you're done, your
Yeah.
career is over. And that's where I see the conflict with Bonucci, because he doesn't think he's done. I think he has still something to give for Juve, but in reality, we're all in agreement that it's done. So admitting to yourself that, not an easy feat at all.
Yeah.
That's why he's so angry, I believe.
And ciao, James. Thanks for jumping in here. Safe travels, buddy. Safe travels. Um, with Bonucci too, I'm just gonna say this because we do see here Vidal saying he reportedly didn't want to lower his salary and whatnot. Well, neither did Sandro. Neither did a list of other players.
How many of us would give up our salary
Some
for the
players didn't want to
better
turn down
man?
salary. I will also say Bonucci was one that was going around with Chiellini to get the players to defer payments during the COVID time as well. So it is what it is. It's coming to an end. Farewell. Again, I just think it's ugly. It sucks when it's on a sour note. Sule. Do we have the same scenario coming into play right now with Sule? Is Entourage apparently pushing him for a loan? And it's like when you hear the Entourage trying to push him for this loan, and we know what happened last winter Mercato, this kid, he wanted to stay and fight for minutes, whatever those minutes would be here. He's got to take a loan now, right? Like he's got to go out on loan. Like there's no way he's going to get the minutes required to benefit him or benefit us in the long run. I think we can all agree here. Sule's got to accept something. It looks like Frosinone might be the team, but he's got to go, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact new rule of loanees and how many you can under a certain age. And I think Sule is beyond that age, and we have loaned a lot of players out this summer. So maybe that's why they're pushing for a sale. And come on, we know we're not going to keep all our youngsters from next gen. Some of them needs to be sold. Maybe Sule is one of them. I don't see him getting many minutes either way. Last season, Chiesa was injured. He was like the replacement for Di Maria. He was tried at right wing back. But I think he will be sold. It's hard for me to see him get loaned out. I think we kind of missed, we have too many loanees. I don't think we can loan him. That's why they're pushing for a sale, if any.
Yeah. And again, everybody say Sule is starting to have some fans wonder if he could ever kind of be a player for Juventus and whatnot. I see the ability, I see the talent, I see everything there, but I think he should have probably gone on loan. It would have been nice if he accepted the 1 year, but you could maybe make an argument even before that. He was kind of one of those guys that was above the level he was at, but he wasn't ready for us type of thing. And we may have shit the bed on the right time to loan Sule. What do you think about that?
And we probably did. I mean, it all depended on how the Mercato evolves and who would sign, who would leave. And so when the offer came, we still didn't know. Now we have more of a clearer picture of how our team is going to look like. But back then, and it's not like I think Sule is a bad player. I just don't think he'll get the minutes he needs
Yeah,
to improve. That's why. If we can keep him and he can get the minutes, cool, keep him. I
yeah.
want him to evolve. I want him to be a great player.
We may have shit the bed. I'm starting to feel on the right timing to make that move and loan and get him the minutes he needs. So going to remind everybody, take a second here. Please like the video while you're here. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I said we were going to go through some of the posts there as we get into the carousel that appears to be coming for us at the forward role. I mean, a lot coming out in terms of Moise Kean and whatnot. So Moise Kean, hey, there's interest there. Juve will not give up anything without an outright sale. Okay, and that's what we're hearing with these last bit of moves here. Obviously, there's the young guys, which will be loans. But, you know, the more established guys, the Keens, the Kostic, and then a slightly bigger asset in Illing Jr., they want outright sale if it is going to happen. They're also prepared to leave all things the same. So we're prepared to leave it as is. With Kean, if he does make a move, we're going to start off with Morata, as he is one of these links, and you're hearing reports that Allegri has reached out to Morata. Morata, we heard weeks ago, was making himself available to Juventus should that opportunity arise. So Morata, again, we asked the poll question. Would you take Morata back a third time? Yes or hell no? It's not a hell no for me, but I'm not stoked on it. 62% said no. Okay? So 62% on our Twitter votes said no. And again, I say no to a Morata return. We're going to add another twist question to it after, but just straight up on Alvaro Morata, is it a no on just on him standalone coming in? Kean goes. Yes or no, Omer?
I think no. I just don't think we need that type of player now. It's not like a profile we're missing in the team, if that makes any sense. So no for me.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same. It's a no. But now we asked a different question. I switched it up and then followed up that poll with a different one. If your options, should Kean leave, are Lukaku, Morata, and Berardi, who would you choose?
Berardi.
Berardi, 44%. And this one got a ton of votes, everybody. Berardi, 44%. Morata, 38%. Lukaku, 18%. So if it's between these three, I actually did go with Morata. And the reason I did was because he can take and play a role with Vlahovic, and he could also replace Vlahovic if we need for rest. Hopefully not, knock on wood, injuries or whatnot. So if it were between those three, then I go Morata for those reasons. Flexibility, tactical flexibility, the ability to play with Vlahovic and without. But hey, Berardi ends up taking it at 44%. Why do you go Berardi?
Just because it gives us a bit more of a tactical flexibility. Because Max doesn't like attacking scenarios too much. He likes letting the players, traits, make scenarios and create opportunities. And I think Berardi is relatively good at that. He's better than most of the players in the league. His numbers, his stats in the past 6 seasons are solid. He's been the main creator for Sassuolo for a long time. It gives us more options and more ways to play if things don't go our way, and we find it hard to break the deadlock and break through tight defenses. Morata is Morata. He's a striker who likes to play off the main striker, not usually as the main striker. That's where he excels. We can see it for Spain mainly. I just don't think he does a good enough job as the main striker, so I wouldn't replace him with Vlahovic. I think Milik has done better there and could do better in the Vlahovic role.
Yeah.
So just solely on that reason, if we don't get any one of them and Keane stays, I'm completely fine with it. Literally no issues.
Yeah. RB Comps coming in here saying there's a reason Berardi has never been at a top club. Vidad kind of sums it up for me as well. I would rather cement the 3-5-2 than open a 3-4-3 door with a big question there onto it. I would end up going Morata back if those were the three options, but I would be probably amiss if I'm not hoping for a better option. Miretti. We are going to talk about Miretti. I saw it come up here because we were talking about Sule, and MM came in here saying, what about Miretti? So Miretti's, the first game against Udinese, I saw a lot of differing opinions on Miretti's game. I kind of feel like I said, Miretti's above next gen, like a miles ahead of next gen. With us, he does a lot of good. And I overall liked his performance. There were some saying he was probably the worst player next to Weah. And I thought he was even harsh on Weah because the game dictated itself to be left side predominantly. We were succeeding on the left side. Why would you go away from it when it's working? And Udinese really couldn't come up with any answers. So I thought it was a little harsh to just give that to Weah. But besides that, Miretti named as second worst player. For me, Miretti does so much good. Finds the pockets of space, can break the lines, does so much good in energy. He was starting to show a little bit of grit too, getting involved in some skirmishes he probably would have shied away from last season. But the decisions in vital moments come too slow for him still. And that is my one main concern with Miretti. And in the final third, especially, they just come too slow, and more often than not, the decisions are incorrect at the most vital points. That is my one thing with Miretti. Alone, ultimately, if you had to ask me what to do with Miretti, in a perfect world for me, you loan Miretti and you find a way to get Samardžić in. That would be an epic swap for this season, if you ask me. The Samardžić deal financially is just so sweet for what I think you're getting out of a player. That's just me. Omer, your thoughts on Miretti? Was he the second worst player for you in that Udinese game? Because honestly, I think it's even rough to just name a bad player in that game or whatnot. Because overall, I gave
that's exactly it. I mean, we won 3-0. If we just have to point out someone, then I might choose Miretti. But I don't think he was bad. He didn't damage our game. He didn't make us concede. He's an attacking player. That's where Max aimed to be, more than a defensive player. He still have problems with the decision makings and slowing the tempo sometimes. He's a 20-year-old. It's fine. I think alone to like a Bologna or some sort of a coach who focuses on attacking would do wonders for him and improve him massively. Something that will take him 2 to 3 years at Juve to reach that level. One loan spell, consistent game time at a mid-table team would be great for him.
Yeah.
Having said that, if he leaves and no one comes in, then our option remains McKennie, an injured Pogba, and that's it. The starting lineup would be Fagioli, Locatelli, Rabiot. So you gotta pick your poison at the end. Either let him go and see him flourish somewhere else for a season, or keep him and have limited game time. But if you want him for the future, I think he still needs a loan, a good loan. But I wouldn't mind him staying.
He does need a loan. Something that's been mentioned here in the chat that I see that I agree with is there is a difference from what we saw in Miretti preseason and immediately in a first game that counts in Serie A. Because in the in the preseason games, he had that sharpness, and it was just like the decisions were good and they were coming quick. But fast forward to the first game where they start counting, and The decisions were taken. He was holding it too long in a lot of moments in the final third. Man, he had Chiesa in his sweet spot, screaming for it. He ends up doing nothing with it. Top of the area, losing the ball. We come out with nothing, and you can't have that. That can't happen. Alone would go a long way for Moretti. I don't think it's to the point where some need to say we might not have one of these golden boys on our hands. I think that's far from the truth. He just needs minutes with probably less pressure, obviously, where he can really get comfortable and whatnot. But it has to be the right side. Has to be the right club that he's going to, for me. That'll be key. Nico Lucci. So Hans Nico Lucci Caviglia. What are our thoughts on Nico Lucci Caviglia? For me, I mean, he put in some good shifts in the preseason. If he remains, which he might have to, because who's going to be filling in for Locatelli? Fagioli can do it. I believe Fagioli can play anywhere in the midfield. But I also have this feeling that Max won't play Fagioli there. And I think it has a lot to do with physicality, in which Caviglia would have a boost over him in that role. So I think he might fill in for Locatelli when the time comes. But Nico Lucci Caviglia, for me, I think he's good. I think he's a good midfielder, but I don't see like crazy amounts of potential there, but I see somebody that could be a solid, relied upon midfielder eventually at some point.
Yeah, he looks like a good player. Okay, Lucatelli's replacement, I don't know yet. I don't think I've seen him play that position all that much. Certainly not the high level. Last season, we saw Rabiot getting pushed back to that role when Locatelli couldn't. I mean, Allegri preferred him over Paredes and Barrenechea. And I think it was like 2 or 3 times, but he did great there. His traits matched that position perfectly. The physicality, the speed. He's not that great of a passer, but he's very good defensively. So I think that's what we'll see more as in terms of a Lucatelli replacement, Rabiot getting pushed back. But it's just an assumption. I have no idea. Nicolucci, he looks like a promising player. He looks like he has some sort of grinta to him and something that we like. Once again, the minutes question comes back in. Is he going to get any minutes if everyone's healthy? I don't know. Don't know if it's enough. These guys are all young. They need playing time. They can't just sit on the bench and train. That's not a good development. That's what I say towards all the youngsters who don't get any playing time.
Yeah.
That's the age. That's the time to start figuring yourself out. So he had one bad decision that he didn't pass it to, sorry, not Caviglia, Moretti, that didn't pass it to Chiesa. Okay, so they get angry at him, and next time he'll learn and he'll evolve. That's how it works at these ages. If it was like a 28-year-old player, I'd say, okay, that's him. That's how this player is like. But Caviglia, Ealing, Sule, all those guys, Yildiz, Hoysen, they need playing time. And if they can't get it at Juve, because we're not in Europe and there aren't that many games this season,
there is one part of Moretti's game that I actually like, that I would be challenging Fagioli to do and wanting him to do as well. And this is not a knock on Fagioli, so I don't want anybody kind of taking it in that manner. It's just different with Fagioli out there. But Moretti, what he does extremely well is help us get out of the defensive phase, and he turns his men very well, and he can beat guys in that middle very well and create fast break moments. He may have held the ball long in some of those scenarios against Udinese. He may have made the wrong decision coming up into that vital moment and whatnot. However, he gets those scenarios quite a lot, and he brings a lot in terms of getting into those scenarios and finding pockets and in and around the area, being a problem, being tough to mark, and gaining stuff for us. I need more And it doesn't have to be the same. Fagioli doesn't need to be driving at defenses, but he did it with Cremonese. Okay? I will say that. But I need a little more from Fagioli than drifting out to the right sideline. I need him stuck in there, and I need him to create much, much more. Okay? And that's just one little thing that I want to see out of Fagioli once he gets back in there in the fold. Okay? This goes back into last season and whatnot. And I know we had Di Maria and we were using him and he was coming back into the midfield. Fagioli was almost sacrificed, but I get why we did that. Now it's time to use Fagioli in that type of scenario. And no more guys dropping back to take the ball from Fagioli. No, fuck that. Give Fagioli the ball and let's get him evolving. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And we got to remember that if Pogba is healthy, all of those points are just moot points, and Pogba is there to do everything we expect Miretti or Fagioli to do, while Luca and Rabiot do a lot of the heavy lifting defensively and driving forward. So that's also a huge question mark. If Pogba is fit, a lot of that doesn't matter at all. And they definitely won't get enough playing time. Fagioli will. I don't know about Miretti.
Yeah. We got what's up to Tony Trim, my man, just dropping in. Working, most likely we'll watch replay. There you go. Miretti is a better athlete than Fagioli, but Fagioli is more skilled. They're both role players in my opinion, as well as Locatelli. Listen, everybody's going to have their opinions. I love the difference in opinions, especially with these young guys that are we're still waiting to really find out, where it's going to go for them and everything. So it's awesome hearing everyone in the chat and as we see everyone in the panel, how they feel about these guys. Miretti last year, all we heard from Anthony was eat some more paninis, kid, and get some strength there developed. I actually saw a little bit of a change there in terms of his willingness into certain gritty moments and whatnot, and I appreciated it, and I loved it. Like I said, Miretti brings a lot of good. There's still something there. If we could make a change and bring in someone more polished, I think that would be great this season. Talking about Pogba, as I see Pogba come into the chat here, if Pogba can consistently stay fit from RB Comps, then I think the league is ours for the taking. Absolutely. The more minutes Pogba can play, absolutely, the better it bodes for Juventus. But we have to wait and see. Right now as it stands, we're waiting for the finalization of the roster. We are the youngest team at an average age of 26 years old. Does anybody know the last time Juventus was the youngest team in the league?
No, I guess never.
I have absolutely no idea. Sorry if I led people to believe that this was some type of trivia thing. I have no idea. I'm legitimately asking because I have no idea. Vidad says 1998, and I don't know if you're saying this knowing or whatnot, but I don't know if ever. And I would have to go back and look at this. We'll revisit this on the weekend, but do you guys... It's one game in. Juve continuously gets put out as favorites naturally always. We know what our coach will say. Mr. will say, no, the last team that won it is favorites. He will say that and he will deflect. And we know Inter probably with the moves that they were making, whatnot, are up there if you're looking in terms of on paper. I still remain the same with my judgment on this, and it is that we are closer to favorites than just a top four side. I truly do believe that. Hearing that we're the youngest team, that we have an average age of 26 years old, changes absolutely nothing for me. Because I see some on social media saying, yeah, youngest team, way too many question marks, all this, barely any moves in the Mercato. I stand behind what I say. We're closer to favorites this season than we are just a top four side because the average age is being brought down dramatically by players that are probably not going to be getting a ton of minutes. And do not forget, young guys, Fagioli's going to be a lock in the midfield. We just saw Romeo Gresti say that our midfield locked up is Rabiot, Locatelli, Fagioli. Pogba may be getting minutes against Bologna, and then we will have to wait to see what it's going to look like for his health. That's going to be our main midfield. Fagioli brings that age down. Moretti brings that age down. Chiesa, he'll bring it down. Vlahovic will bring it down. Moise Kean will bring it down. Like, these guys are bringing it all down, but in terms of where we are as a roster, and I'll get into the Mercato as a whole, I still stand firm on that stance. Do you agree with me, Omer?
Yeah, I picked us as Scudetto winners not because I want us to be. I think we have a real shot here with no Europe, a good squad. I'm standing behind this squad. I mean, one player here or there should leave, but overall we have deep cover for every position. We have young talents and players with more experience. I mean, the age thing, we had a lot of old players for a long time. Buffon was 36 for like 10 years. Chiellini was almost 40 when he left. I mean, he had like 10 years being here between 30 and 40. Khedira, Matuidi, Pjanic, none of those guys came in as youngsters. So that's what took the age average up. Now a lot of these guys have left. I mean, who's the oldest on the team right now? Bonucci still, who's 36. It's not that bad. It's something pretty new, but Juve have never been the team that is full of youngsters and just developing. And whenever they had them, they used to sell them.
Yeah.
So we're still favorites, not favorites, but we're up there, and we can, if we take the title, it wouldn't be a surprise to me at all.
And I'm with you on that. Everybody's saying the same. A fully fit Chiesa. Chiesa's on a revenge tour, everybody. Okay. I'm expecting big things from those guys. It was a no-brainer making the Fantacalcio list with Chiesa, a chip on his shoulder. Instantly. Pogba fit for 20 games. We're going to cakewalk the Scudetto coming in from Animesh. Animesh getting off to a strong start in Fantacalcio, by the way. We put out our top 10 for after the first round. The HAC leader so far is Luca. Man, how did we let that happen, Omer? Jeez.
Oh, I made a huge mistake. I picked Kostic, so I lost points there because he didn't play at all. I did pick Osimhen as my captain, and Leao had a bad game. He's my vice captain, so I lost some points there. And Dika didn't play, so I lost points on Roma.
I skipped out on Leao this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tough call. I mean, Osimhen was a no-brainer.
Osimhen was a no-brainer. Yeah. I skipped out on Leao. I did. I had him in there, took him out. I put him back in there, took him out, and put him back in there. And then I was no. In the end, I said, if I'm thinking this too hard, I'm just going to say no. Because if I've taken him out, 2 times already, it's done. But the Fantacalcio is great stuff. For those of you who still want to get involved, if you haven't, even though you're one round deep, like I am looking with some sponsors to get some prizes monthly, perhaps. So even if you're down a round or whatever for overall, you might win like a monthly prize or whatnot. So if you still want to get in, I can send you the details to get into the league, all right? And we'll post it up again on Twitter and everything. It's there. You can find it. But let's go. Mark one still saying, go ahead.
Join. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. They can join even if you lost the first round.
Yeah.
You can definitely win it. My picks were based on most of the season, not the first game. So don't be alarmed. You can still join.
Mark saying, I'm not convinced that we can win the Scudetto. Finishing second or third, possible, but not winning the Scudetto. With the additions, Napoli, Inter, and Milan look better than last year. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say Napoli doesn't. I don't think Napoli looks better than on that first game. It's still too early to say how they look until you get a good amount of games. That stands for Juventus too. We've only played one match. Once we get a handful of matches from all these sides, I think you'll get a better understanding of what it's going to be like. But we also don't have the spread of European play. So when we start talking about key guys like Pogba coming in, and if he gets 20 games, we can attack. Well, playing in one competition helps us tremendously in preserving our players and our key guys. So it's going to be very interesting. I've said it all along. I think this is going to be wide open in Serie A this season, everybody. I really, really do. I
I
really,
think it's
really
going to
do.
be one of the most competitive seasons we had in a long while
Absolutely.
in Italy. And I'm all for it. I mean, we had four different champions in the past 4 years. That's the type of football I love. If it's not Juve, then mix it up. Mix it up in the Champions League, mix it up everywhere. And most of our games against the top oppositions are not now, when there's still everyone is fresh and there's still no Champions League matches and no international breaks. So that kind of plays into our advantage. If we can make good strides in the first round, where everyone is still playing Champions League football, and in Europe, that could be massive. Winning against those teams now can have major implications of what's going to be in the next round.
Yeah. As for Bologna, this weekend, second match. Obviously, you guys know, okay? We got the match day live. We're going to get ready, hyped up for that one. We're going to tackle a few things. I'll have some keys to the game coming out in the next day or two, okay? Getting up, leading up to it. But watch along, doing another watch along, okay? The first one, we kicked off the season in style, 3-0 victory. Let's hope for another victory this weekend. But the starting lineup appears to be the exact same. The early signs are all saying the exact same for starting lineup. I have absolutely no problems with it. Vidal brings in the latest from Monblano. Juventus have promised Berardi's entourage that they will present a new offer to Sassuolo close to the weekend, also to reestablish contact with the Neroverdi club. Omer, for fun, for shits and giggles, your moves that you expect, that you think how we're going to finish off this Mercato.
Honestly, I don't think anyone is coming in. We'll see some loans, maybe one sale. But if I have to guess, I still think it will be Berardi. I think the Lukaku ship has sailed. I mean, good lord, finally sailed. I don't see Morata coming back. I don't see Juve shutting out 20 million for him for third time. Maybe we'll have some surprise like Summerzic, but everything depends around departures and who would leave. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot will happen, and everyone told us that. I mean, we talked to Agresti and Mirko and everyone, and they all said don't expect a lot of business this summer, mainly outgoings. So far, we have Wea, we signed Facundo Gonzalez and immediately loaned them out. That's about it. We had some loanies coming back, and we don't have money. And honestly, I'm good with it. Even if we make some profit of some player, keep the money. You don't have to immediately spend it. The squad is good enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, storm the barn. It is time. We have time for some. Okay, so start firing away. If there's a little bit too much or we have to shut things down, well, we got the green room sessions for our members, okay? And we'll maybe take some into that and have some fun, all right? Already, Tony Trim loves the green room sessions. Yeah, we'll get them going. But RB Comps has the first Storm the Barn question, all right, as we look to wrap up this live session. Hot take, but Allegri played pragmatic football last season, not because he's tactically inept, doesn't know how to play attacking, but it's because he's so stubborn, and this is holding him back. Thoughts? If I go back, I kind of talked about it today, but the dynamic players are crucial to how Max Allegri plays, because he will always lean on the defensive side first. The more dynamic players you have, the better. We also had strikers, 2 out of the 3 that struggled in hold-up play. He was, to say stubborn is spot on in keep going to that regardless. You had Di Maria. When it worked, it was great, but when it didn't, we never altered how we used him. I think that kind of wasted Fagioli in a sense, even when he came into the fold and everything, but there was a lot of things going on that really didn't make sense to me. And I think ultimately, and I've been saying this for years since he's come back, everybody, I've been saying one thing, one line, probably driving people nuts with it. I said Juventus doesn't excel, start to thrive, or change until Max Allegri changes, until he finally unleashes, so to speak, because it's been too safe. And if I think to even last season, whatnot, it's too safe. And this is evident in approach. And I think that's been our biggest detriment is the approach. You can't shut down and clamp down at 1-0 because you don't have that team anymore. Stubborn would be a way to play that out. And, now this season, well, we started off the right way because we didn't get into that. It looked like we were gonna right after that first goal against Udinese, but you have to also remember we scored 2 minutes into that game. So that's not really like a let up. You're still at the teams are feeling each other out. It's first game of the season moment, whatever. And then as you get out of that opening, it could be anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes of a game where you're kind of going back and forth and trying to get in rhythm, trying to get comfortable. Then outside of that, Juve was great that first half. And that's when I'm fine with clamping down. 3-0 lead in the second half. Business like. But last season, Max was pretty safe. The team was pretty safe. And we were ultimately too soft. I think this year, and we're hearing it around camp. I'm hearing it around Juve's camp. We're hearing it everywhere. Everybody's got a chip on their shoulder. And everybody's on the same page and everybody's driven. I think we're going to see a team that's ready to fight for every single inch and prove everybody and give the FIGC, everybody, the big day this season. I like it. But I would say Max stubborn. That's one way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always been his thing. That's the thing with Italian managers in general. I mean, Conte is just as stubborn. But Allegri, his main problem was that he didn't evolve, and what worked back in 2015, 16, 17. Football has changed. It looks different. That's what makes the better managers keep succeeding. That's what Pep Guardiola always does. He always improves a bit, has some different tweaks, and he has the luxury of buying like the best players for a lot of money. That's true. But he also changes formation. He's not stuck on what he's doing. That was Max's biggest thing all the time. Um, Look, I said it, we have a good team. Manianelli would probably turn out to be one of the best signings we've done. Manianelli and Gintoli, that was the main focus of this Mercato. First of all, stabilizing the management and the foundations of the team before going into the actual team, because we do have good players. They're not Dybala, Higuain, Mandzukic, and all those guys. Of course, they're not. We don't have the luxury of buying these players now. So we have to make do with what we have. And that's where Allegri needs help. And I believe he finally admitted it. And maybe he got some, the management told him something about that. You don't have the backbone of the Chiellini, Barzali, Bonucci, Buffon that you can safely assume we wouldn't concede, and they give all on the pitch every match. And Bremer was a new guy last season. Gatti was a new guy. Bonucci was old. I mean, there were a lot of transitions that needed to happen, and it was a tough season, even without everything that happened with the point deduction. So I think we're a bit more ready now, and the players have some sort of hunger they didn't have last season. We still had some players who were just here, for the money, just one season. And the World Cup was on the horizon, and that kind of dictated everything that happened last season. I'm not that surprised that it ended up the way it did. And so Max has everything to prove this season, everything to just make a name for himself. Even if he does move at the end of the season, if anyone wants him, he needs to prove that they do the right thing to sign him.
Yeah.
So he has everything to prove, and the players.
Absolutely. The entire team does. I do want to say this with in terms of Max Allegri. Oh man, I just it was in terms of like I see comments about him being flexibility, his flexibility he was, but since his return hasn't really been able to. He said in his presser when he said he wasn't sure if playing only one competition was an advantage or not or whatnot. I'm not diving back into this, everybody, but what I'm saying is, I think it is going to be an advantage for him because of the fact of how many different lineups, rotations, etc. we saw last season. I think the ability to just dumb it down and go with your guys and have very few rotations will again be better for us in the long run, definitely from a chemistry standpoint, because I said this towards the end of last season. What drove me nuts and what I did put on Max was the fact that you had a team that was playing late in the season and they showed just as much a lack of chemistry at that stage that they did at the start of the season. And that for me was a massive, massive failure from the entire coaching staff and all the players ultimately. But he had so much rotation, so many different lineups, so many different combinations that we used. And I'm like, you know what? Injuries, like we're healthy this season, whatnot. One competition, this is an advantage exactly for that reason. Because I think less rotation, all this is going to actually be better for Juventus.
Yeah.
And Max.
And I don't know when's the last time he played both lineups, but it goes back to 2018, to like his first stint with Juve. In that season, when Ronaldo first came in, he didn't play the same lineup once all season. He may have done it once or twice since coming back, but not like week after week or match after match. And there's a good chance here to do that. I think we're going to see the same lineup against Bologna, and that will be the first time in I don't know how long. A lot of it was due to injuries and stuff and not all his fault, but still, if you want chemistry, those guys need to play together more often than not.
Yeah. Storm the Barn. Mark 1. Calcio Mercato is saying Juventus are interested in Balogun. How true is this? As we were discussing the previous one, I actually reached out to Romeo Agresti, and he says this is the first time I'm hearing that. So there you go.
Yeah, as far as the news go, and reliable sources, Calcio Mercato is not one of them. They're more the type of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So they made up just for all teams 100, 200 assumptions of this guy will sign, this guy will leave, and eventually when something sticks, they say, "Oh, we got it first." So I don't buy into this type of stuff. Calcio Mercato are not a very reliable source.
Yeah, we always say like we like to discuss everything as far as the hypotheticals, and we love to put everything out there for you because also we have seen some of the less credible ones actually get things right. So you have to hear it all. But
Yeah,
for the majority, there are the three guns you want to stick to, which are Skira, Agresti, and Di Natale. But Di Marzio this season, out of nowhere, after years of being relatively weak and soft for Juve news, he's been bang on this
spot on.
summer, which
Yeah.
is great.
La,
So,
La Repubblica.
this is why I say you pay attention to everything, take it all in. But Agresti says first time he's heard of any interest for
I
Balogun.
don't
So
I don't
there
see
you
it
go.
happening because Inter were interested and they wanted like 30 or 40 million for him. We don't have that money to spend, and if we did, we wouldn't spend that on him. And now that he's a bad player, it's just I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And even La Repubblica are not a credible source, but they
No.
were the first one to announce SMS to Saudi Arabia. When I saw that, I said no way, but eventually they were right. So
Yeah. You take it
they do
all
have,
in, and we see what
yeah.
happens. We got time for a couple more. We'll try and rattle off a few here. Do you see leadership quality in someone besides Danilo? For me, Vlahovic can be amazing leader, but he needs more patience. I think it's early for me to label Vlahovic as a leader. If I'm going to look at guys on this team for leadership right now, I would say next to Danilo, I would put Locatelli, to be honest. I think Locatelli possesses everything to be a leader. Also, everything I'm hearing around the club and behind the scenes is that Locatelli is, man, everyone looks at this guy. He holds everyone in line. He gives Danilo shit. He gives everybody shit. Like, he is on everybody, demanding in training sessions, everything. So I'm hearing a lot. I would put Locatelli right there with Danilo for me. And then I'm not saying that these guys can't, but eventually Chiesa could potentially be a leader. Vlahovic could potentially be a leader. But right now, as far as anyone up there with Danilo, for me, I'd say Locatelli.
And yeah, Locatelli is the obvious one right after Danilo. Um, from what the players are saying, even Rabiot, you know, behind closed doors is a leader. Some players have said that. I haven't seen it on the pitch to say that it's exactly true, but from what's coming out of the dressing room, everyone is saying that about Rabiot. So maybe him too. Besides that, you need some time. It's type of character that either you get along the way or you instantly have it. But I don't see that anyone right now besides Locatelli and Danilo.
Yeah. How many seasons do you think it will take to be a contender for the Champions League title?
I don't think we're going to see the Champions League for for the future. I think something is going to change, and the way things are going right now, and now they want to integrate some teams from Saudi Arabia because there's money there because of all the profiles that went there. And I don't see it just staying the way it is. I mean, it does change. Next year, we have a new format with more teams and more games. Instead of six in the group stage, you have 10, which is also very bad because the players
Listen,
are
I'm just
already
going to
complaining.
say this,
I
okay?
don't
So,
think
how
we'll
many
have it.
seasons, let's say, for whatever premier competition is there, is it going to take for Juventus to be some type of contender?
6, 5.
If we get things right business wise, and we got to see what we start getting out of Juntali and whatnot, it could be 3 or 4 years. It could also be 6, maybe 7. It We really don't know. It's going to depend. Like, he's going to have to hit more often than he misses. However, the kicker is, if we look about the core group of young talent and the pool that we have with next gen that no other team really has right now, and these guys are coming in ready to play, I think that brings that time frame down significantly, especially again going into integrating. And if we are starting to integrate them now, at that time you're going to have these guys at what the majority of them 22, 23, 24 years. Like, we're starting something that could be what has been there in Spain for quite some time for those big teams, which is the ability to pull kids at that age that are ready to rock and ready to get into the mix. That brings your time frame down dramatically when you're not banking on Mercatos and who you're pulling in and deals and sales and purchases. It's going to help a lot. But trying to pin this time down, like I said, if he gets all things right, could be looking at 3, maybe 4 years to be serious at competing in the Premier. I'm not saying contending for the trophy because there's a lot of money involved with a lot of these other teams and a lot of factors. And like Omer was saying, guys coming in. But I'm telling you, to be back in the mix competing in a Premier tournament and being serious as in the mix there, 3 or 4 years
long?
potentially because of what we've got going with next gen and this group that we have that are getting integrated.
Let's look at the past. How much time did it take us since, I don't know, 2010 was the first time we didn't make it into the Champions League to actually being a contender in 2015? That's like 5 seasons of rebuilding and changing players and starting from scratch. I think it's kind of the same situation right now. It will take time, and I'm not seeing us being contenders even in 3 years' time.
Again, I'd say it's shortening the time because of you're pulling in pools and talented players from your own crop. We had guys, we were trying to do it without that back then, and it took 5 years. If you're saying there's no benefit to next gen in shortening that time, I would have to disagree. I would
It
have to
might.
disagree.
I have no idea. I'm guessing based on what happened so far. I have no idea where Champions League is going to go, what happens with the teams in the EPL, the amount of money spent. If suddenly some investor comes into Italy from the USA or anything, things can change a lot faster. And so everything is up in the air right now. I don't even know to tell you who's the favorite for next season.
Man, I don't know. I think also with how certain teams do, how fortunate they are, and depending on what side of a bracket, whatever, what format, like there's so many things. But for us getting back and like being serious in competitions and whatnot, I don't think it's out of the ordinary to say 3 or 4 years. And even if we're talking back then without the boost of next gen being 5 years, that's not far off. So I would probably say that's what I would look at. And especially, like I said, June Tully, if we could start seeing some of that magic, if he could start pulling gems and everything, let's see what happens. But everybody's a little bit harsh about this Mercato right now and saying expected so much more, all this, and June Tully this, June Tully that. I will say this. Everything we have done so far, and it is not fair to judge this guy right now because it's all money driven. It is all finances. That is where it's at. We are
Yeah.
literally just trying to make things work financially. You'll know when he's cooking. I feel like that's I'll make that statement right now. You'll know when things are cleaned up. We get the finance reports posted and everything. We'll know when things are cleaned up enough, and a lot of it's going to happen naturally as we continue on. Guys like Sandro, we're seeing it with Bonucci and everything as we start to fade in there. Once he gets those shackles broken, I think Giuntoli will be very, very strong for Juventus. But right as of now, I'm not putting a whole lot of weight on what's going on other than finances. The rumors with Vlahovic, Lukaku, all this, it's all finances, everybody. That's it.
Yeah. That's a good, great way to my next question, which possibly be our last,
This
if
is
it's
going to be our
fine.
last. Yep.
Yes. So considering everything, let's give everyone in the chat give um, an early ranking to this Mercado. Considering everything, what kind of grade from 1 to 10 would you give this Mercado based on the money, the players who left, the players who came in, some of the deals we've done, keeping Max, everything, the fine from UEFA, missing out on European play? How would you rate this Mercado? Let's say Bonucci leaves. Okay, that he's out of the team and he goes to Union Berlin.
I'm at about 7. And the reason that might seem high to people is because if we can shut things down now, you've seen Bonucci out. We have young guys in the fold being mixed in. If we keep Chiesa, Vlahovic, and Bremer knowing where the finances were and everything, that's strong for me. That's strong for me because I totally anticipated one out of those three leaving. And if we keep all of them, yeah, I'm happy. Bringing in Weah to replace Quad, that's all we really needed. Young guys being in the mix, Caviglia, whatever. I don't like the fact of the business we did do with Rovella, so I'm actually going to sneak that down to about a 6.5, but that's where I'm at. I'm not like a 2 or a 3 like everybody in there. And hey, here we go. The biggest signing probably right there, Magnanelli. I'll go with 6.5. Okay. I'm not, and like I said, I could have been in the 7 mix, but I think keeping all those key guys, massive, massive during what's going on.
Yeah, so I wanted to go even higher, but now you're bringing me down. I wanted to go with an 8, just because you know everything revolves around money, and we had none. I believe that if we had money, Allegri wouldn't even be here right now. So we brought in a new general director that we wanted for so long, and asked for so long someone with experience. We brought in an attacking coach. Um, I am an eternal optimist. Yeah, that's the only way I can watch football. Um, So no money. We had to sell Ravella. We were preparing for a heartbreak for one of Chiesa, Vlahovic, Bremer, someone we love, and that will leave. And it didn't happen. The biggest heartbreak so far was Ravella, and he didn't play 1 minute of professional football with Juve.
Yeah.
And so we were banking on him, but it's not all that bad as things stand now. We got a 20 million fine from Refa and a ban from Europe mid Mercato. So that's another 20 million gone that we could have used. We did finalize Kulusevski. We did send a lot of youngsters on loan, but didn't sell them. And there were some good moves considering we had zero money to work with.
Yeah.
And I would take it down because we still have Sandro and the way that the Bonucci thing was handled. And we could have done a bit more, but we were limited because other teams were working too. If we would have signed Fratesi, that could have been great. But you can't always, do things before everyone else. And another thing is that we couldn't work before the summer until we knew the final verdict of UEFA and the FIGC, because a lot of teams are closing deals and free transfers like Indica that we could have used, could have been great for us, but we didn't know how much money we have, and we wait. So Roma closed the deal, so we didn't have that leverage too from working from January up until the Mercato. That's why I give it a pretty high grade, but I might be wrong. I'll take any opinion. If someone says 3 and give me a good explanation, I'll take it.
Yeah, the thing is, like I said, finances, finances, finances. Sure, we could have made some other moves, some other pickups. We were in on certain pick. There was Parisi, there was Fratesi, like you mentioned, but it's money. It's money. We moved Zakaria, moved Kulishevsky. Didn't work out with McKennie. These guys have to agree to the deals too. And that's one of the things we got stung with a couple times and whatnot. But like I said, overall, knowing where the finances stood, knowing about what can potentially come down still, even with the cleanup that's happened with FFP, hey, keeping Chiesa, Vlahovic, and Bremer, massive for me. I stand behind that, and that's still the ultimate. I know we got our pants absolutely dropped on Rovella deal. Brutal from the numbers point of view. I hated it. But overall, if the trade-offs we saw keep those guys here for us, yeah, I'm all for it. And that's where I finish up that I see no harm in keeping the team relatively unchanged, and I'm fine with it. So
7 would be my final.
sevens, I think fair. Sevens, I think fair. All right.
If they do the Lukaku Vlahovic swap, that drops down to 4.
Yeah, if all of a sudden, and again, there's still time. Absolutely anything can happen. We'll see. But if something like that were to go down, I would change that score. And we'll, of course, approach it and look at this when the Mercato does end. Everybody, that wraps up the session today. All right. Look for the midweek ones to take place through the season, as we were only playing in one competition. All right. Bring on Bologna. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Sunday morning, we got Bologna round 2. Get your Fantacalcio lineup set up before that. If you want to join our league, just simply search AJC Fantacalcio on our Twitter page or whatnot, or you could even find it on Instagram. I posted them. Hey, get your team set up for the weekend. Sunday morning, we're going to do the match day live, and then I'm going to give you the watch along, all right? Absolutely jacked for it. Thank you very much. Like the video on your way out, all right? Listen to Luca. That's the only time I'm going to tell you to listen to him, all right? So there you go. So great job, guys. Thank you very much. And Apex, always a pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody, for your continued support, all right? Enjoy the rest of your weeks. We'll talk to you live again on the weekend. I'll have daily news updates coming for you till then, all right? Ciao tutti. As always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juve. Take care, everybody.